whole denominator in parentheses. Okay, so negative 1 plus, that would be 1/4, is what, negative 0.75. Okay, so that's going to be my focus. Negative 0.75 is going to be the y value. Okay, for my directrix, I'm going to do k minus 1/4a. Okay, to find that y value. So it's going to be negative 1 minus 1/4 times 1. Okay, and you should get negative 1.25. Okay, so I can fill that in, negative 1.25. I know my domain. Okay, so that's good. The range, what you can do is look at your min or max. Since it's a minimum value, it's going to start out at y equals negative 1, like you wrote, and it's going to go up for forever and ever. So negative 1 to infinity. Okay, or you could say y is greater than or equal to negative 1. Okay. Last one, the roots. I'm going to look at my graph to figure out what the roots are. Let's see. And my x-intercepts are at negative 1, 2, 3, and negative 1. So x equals negative 3, and x equals negative 1. Okay. So it looks like a lot of work. It does get easier and faster once you know what you're doing, and the more you do it, it gets better. Okay, but there's the first example. Okay, let's move on to the second example. On the second one, we have y equals 3x minus 2 squared. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is figure out, okay, what form is this in? Okay, now you know it's not vertex, or you know it's not standard because there's not 3 terms, and because you have the parentheses. You know it's not root because it has a squared. Okay. This is actually vertex form. Which I like, because once you have the vertex, you can figure out a lot of that information that we're analyzing here. Okay. So if you remember from yesterday, your vertex is going to be the opposite of what's in parentheses. So it's going to be positive 2. And my y value is the number at the very end. Okay. And since we don't have one here, it's going to be 0. Negative 2, 0. Okay. So from there, I can figure out my axis of symmetry and my min or max. Okay. Axis of symmetry is the x value of the vertex. My max or min value is the y value of the vertex. So 2 and then 0. Okay, and remember to tell if it's a max or a min. Okay, look at your equation. Do you have a negative in front of that very first number? Okay, and you don't, which means it's a right side up, sorry, it's a right side up parabola. It's not going to be flipped because there's no negative. So thinking about a right side up parabola, you're going to have a minimum value. Okay. You're going to have a really low point at the vertex, and then it's going to go up forever and ever. So this is going to be your minimum. Let's see, the focus. Okay, we can figure out the focus. It's always the x value of your vertex, so 2. And then the y value is going to be k plus 1/4a. Okay. Remember, the k is the y value of the vertex. So we're looking at, let's see, 0 plus 1 over 4 times, let's see, A is going to be that very first number. Okay. So A for this problem is going to be 3. And I'm going to plug that in. Okay. So let's see, the y value of my focus is going to be, what, 1/12? And if you want to put that as a decimal, you can. Or you can leave it as a fraction. It's up to you. Okay. The directrix, it's going to be y equals. Okay. And if you remember, your directrix is y equals k minus 4a. Minus 1 over 4a. Alright, so it's going to be 0 minus 1 over 4 times 3. So our directrix is going to be negative 1/12. Okay, the domain will always be for parabolas. It will always be all real numbers, or negative infinity to positive infinity. The range. Okay, on the range, we know we have a minimum value of 0, and then it's going to go up forever and ever. So it's going to go from 0 to infinity. Okay, or you could say y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and then on the roots, we'll just look at the graph once we graph it and see what our roots are, what our x-intercepts are. Alright, so just from the vertex, we figured out everything but the roots, which is pretty cool. So let's go to y equals. Let's find some points that we can plot on our graph. So y equals, we're going to put in our equation. 3 parentheses x minus 2 squared. Okay. Once you have that in, we're going to go to the table, second graph. And we want to find some points around the vertex. Okay, our vertex is at 2, 0. So let's go around the point 2, 0 and figure out some points. So let's see. 0, 12 is going to be off the graph. We can't graph that. 1, 3 is a good point. So 1, 3, 2, 0, and what is it? 3, 3? So it looks like that. Let's go ahead and draw our axis of symmetry. Goes right down through the vertex. Okay, and very last part, we need to find our roots. So look and see, what are your x-intercepts? And for this problem, we only have one x-intercept this time. It's at 2, 0. Okay, so our root is 2. We only have one root on this problem. Last example for analyzing. Alright, number 3, we have y equals negative 2, x minus 2, x plus 2. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, what form is this in? Okay, and it's in root form. So we can figure out what our roots are. Let's see, max or min. Then your focus. Directrix. Domain. range, and then roots. Okay, so your roots for this problem, if you remember from yesterday, you do the opposite of your factors. So the opposite of my first factor would be a positive 2, and the second one would be a negative 2. Okay. So x equals positive 2, and x equals negative 2. Okay. Go ahead and plot those on your graph. 2 and negative 2. Okay. And just like yesterday, we're going to find our middle point, or the in between of those two roots. So the middle here would be when x is 0. Okay, that's your axis of symmetry. X equals 0. Okay, it's the x value of my vertex. It's also the x value of my focus. Okay, and we know the domain's going to be all real numbers. Alright, now before we keep going, we need to figure out what our vertex is. So let's go to y equals on our calculator. Our equation is negative 2, x minus 2, and x plus 2. We're going to go to our table, second graph, and find some points around that vertex. Okay, so our vertex, when x is 0, my y is 8. Okay, let's go ahead and plot these points. 0, 8. 1, 6, so negative 1, 6, 2, 0, let's see, 3, negative 10, you can plot that, and negative 3, negative 10. So, it's an upside down parabola. So, on your vertex is a point 0, 8. I'm going to go ahead and write that, 0, 8. Okay, it's an upside down parabola, so we actually have a maximum point this time. It's the highest point. So circle max, and our maximum is when y is 8. Okay, it's just the y value of my vertex. The focus, now we can find the focus. It's going to be the y value, 8, plus 1 over 4a. And for this problem, my a is going to be negative 2. Okay, your a is your very first number in your equation, negative 2. Okay, so let's see, we're going to do 8 plus, that would give me negative 1/8. And you should get 7.875. Okay, for your focus. Okay, your directrix is going to be 8 minus 1/8. So 8 minus negative 1/8. I'm sorry. And that should give you 8.125. So on the directrix, you're going to have y equals 8.125. Okay, your range, since we have a maximum, what happens is we start out at a negative infinity because it goes down for forever and ever. So start out at negative infinity, and it's going to go up to your maximum, which we said was 8. So negative infinity to positive 8. Or you could say y is less than or equal to 8.